All systems go. Clear for liftoff.
What is going on, everybody? It is college football season again. Week 0 is upon us. It smells like fresh gridiron and some SHIPITs out there. What's going on, everyone? My name's Bill. Put a dollar in front of it. You'll find me on Twitter and Discord. And man, the entire SHIPIT Nation team is pumped for college football to start. Just to have Saturdays filled with football again is going to be so incredible. And we got some good things going on in SHIPIT Nation, not just for college football, but NFL too. We have a whole football package right now. We still have our early bird special. You can see up here on the screen, $349 for the football package if you get in before September 3rd. And not only does it get you the football package for the entire season, but it also gets you all access. So you can test out some of our other sports. We have MMA. We still have golf going on. Actually, I don't know what's going on with golf before the Ryder Cup, but you'll get to try out all the sports. We're nearing the end of the season for NASCAR, but baseball's still going on, and you'll have all access through September 3rd. If you just sign up for the early bird football package, again, that's $35 or $350 for 5 months of content. So $70 a month gets you access not only to NFL, but to all the college football resources. And it also includes a new partner, in case you haven't heard, still new. I would say it's still new, SaberSim. This package does include SaberSim, which also has college football as part of their optimizer. So, super excited for our first season of college football with SaberSim. And honestly, now's the time to get in at SHIPIT, because if you get in and become a SHIPIT Nation member, you are automatically part of the SHIPIT games. What are the SHIPIT games, you might ask? Well, throughout the entire NFL season, we're going to have opportunities to win golden SHIPITs, basically, like golden tickets like Willy Wonka. But and then at the end of the season, there will have been 50 golden SHIPITs handed out. And it's all going to be to earn these cash prizes at the end of the season. There's going to be a contest. And, this is between SHIPIT and SaberSim. This is us giving back to our community. We always look for new ways to, improve the product, but also to give back. Right now, the top prize is $20,000. Second place is $10,000. Third place is $5,000. You can see the prizes here. And I won't go through everything. Just go to shipitgames.com. But I do want to let you know that this game number 2, Share a Ship, there's going to be a ballot selected winner to be entered into the 333 Wildcat. Tambo will enter it. And part of that money will go back to the winner. And then 50% of it is going to go into this prize pool. So if anything, these prizes are only going to get bigger. Again, just a cool opportunity that we're not seeing anywhere else in the industry. As far as right now, cash prizes are at almost $80,000. And like I said, that is expected to grow. And on top of being eligible for the SHIPIT games as a either football package member or all access member, we also have these logos. If you go to shipitnation.com, go to more, go to logos, it'll bring you to this page. These two are the 2 approved logos. And what's so special about those? Well, it gets us access to SaberSim's Winner Circle, and this is something that SaberSim is allowing us to do. It's such a cool opportunity. It's such a great partnership with SaberSim. But if you're not familiar with the Winner Circle, if you finish in the top 5 of a DFS contest and you win $1,000, you get a free month of SHIPIT Nation and SaberSim. All the rules are here and the guidelines. And top 5 of a contest, at least $1,000, 10x the entry fee. 10,000, you get the month free, and then a SHIPIT Nation t-shirt, hoodie, hat. 100,000. The prizes just keep getting bigger and bigger, and they even gave us access to their Rolex $1 million winner, and we've had 4 milli makers here at SHIPIT Nation. So we're always looking for more, and just if ever there was a time to pull the trigger on coming over to SHIPIT Nation, now's it. So many cool opportunities, so exciting with football season starting up again, and that free all access, if you sign up for the football package for the next couple of weeks, that means you're going to get every single sport. And again, that football package includes college. So that's why I love it so much. Since we do have a smaller slate for week 0, I'm going to get into a little bit of some of the rules of college football when we're playing DFS. Kind of things that might differ a little bit from NFL if you're more used to NFL and you're new to college football this year. Quarterback in the Superflex is the biggest thing. NFL doesn't have Superflex. I know they tested it. I don't know if they're still doing it this year, but it's not part of their standard classic lineups. Quarterbacks are typically going to be the more consistent, high-scoring players in college football, especially the dual threat quarterbacks who have the rushing upside. So typically you're going to want to put a quarterback in your Superflex. That's going to give you the best opportunity. Now, there are going to be some exceptions to the rule. 2-game slates, especially when we get into MACtion, midweek MACtion, and Conference USA play later in the season. This rule is not always going to apply. And then there are going to be certain contests and different slates where you're like, the best way for me to get different is to throw a running back or wide receiver in that Superflex. But more often than not, you're going to want to put a quarterback there. News is still huge in college football. I know every Power 4 conference is now doing injury reports. So you think, there's not quite as big of an edge as there used to be. Well, there still is, especially since most, if not all of the conferences' injury reports only apply to conference games. So if you go on the Big 12 site this week, you will see the Iowa State, Kansas State, Ireland game on there, but you're not going to see Kansas on there because it's only for conference games, and Kansas's game this week is a non-con. So even with that, though, even when we get into conference play, there's going to be guys that are dressed for warmups in the first part of warmups, the first hour, like early warmups. All of a sudden, 40 minutes before lock, you hear, he tweaked something in warmups, or he gave it a go and couldn't quite get there, and now he's in street clothes. So that's where it's super important to be paying attention to news right up until lock, and you got to pay attention to the injury reports and news up, for the 2:30 games, or depending on what time zone you're in. I'm in the Lord's time zone, so that's what we're going to go off here. And then on top of that, find a Discord. I love SHIPIT Nation's Discord because it's not just the college football team there. It's the entire community. We're full of sweaty tryhards. So if something does happen, the news is going to be posted there. There's no doubt that somebody's going to see it. Beyond that, we're going to discuss what it means for the rest of the slate, because if somebody's out, it's going to affect like if a wide receiver for Kansas is out, it's going to affect the rest of that wide receiver core. And maybe they won't even throw as much if one of their studs is out. So things like that. Definitely stuff you want to keep up on. Cash versus GPP, commandment number 3. College football DFS players are getting sharper. That's been pretty evident, but there is still an edge to be had, especially in the cash games. Those are the double ups, the 50-50s, the head-to-head. You're still seeing people in small field cash games that are doing some questionable things with their lineups, whether it's playing, 5 wide receivers. And I've seen it as recent as last year. So it is still out there, or stacking too much of a team in a cash game, stuff that's more suited for your high risk, high reward GPP style contests. A great way to play these cash games is really go to head-to-heads. Pay attention to the people that you're going up against, see what kind of lineups they build. And if they're doing things in these lineups that are like, I don't think that's meant for head-to-heads, or I don't think that's meant for cash games, start to target those people more often. And really what it comes down to is that, playing cash in these head-to-heads and cash games in college football DFS, it's more often than not is your best chance to win more than 50% of the time. And that's just unheard of in daily fantasy sports for the majority of people. I know there's some sharks out there, but and then number 4, volume and game flow. It is the king in college football. There is a lot more variance in how many plays teams run in college football versus the NFL. There will be teams that'll run 55 to 60 plays. Those are your low volume teams. And then you get some of the Texas Techs, West Virginias, Baylor's, 75 to 80 plays a game, and at times upwards of 80. West Virginia Baylor game last year was 49 to 35. So really it's just finding those teams that run a lot of plays, finding those matchups where both teams run a lot of plays, and finding where the volume is. Is the running back a workhorse? Are there specific wide receivers that are going to get higher volume? Finding the players and the games that are going to give you the most opportunity is going to work out more often than not in the long run. So you want to find the good game flows, the usage hogs, and it just, like I said, increases your opportunity. And then number 5, running backs versus wide receivers. A lot of times in the NFL, you're going to want to put a wide receiver in that flex position. There are receiving backs that might break that mold every once in a while. Big difference in college football. In college football, you really want to find those workhorse running backs. Now, week 0, bad example. There's only 6 teams on the slate on DraftKings. And once we get to the running backs, we'll have that discussion. But more often than not on those bigger slates, it's going to be easier to find 3 or more running backs that you really like their usage. And the workhorses is more common for college football running backs in on certain teams to get at least 70% or more of the usage. And a lot of teams are going to have a lot more rotation at wide receiver than the NFL teams do. So again, this isn't an all the time rule, but more often than not, you're going to be looking at a workhorse running back in that flex spot rather than a wide receiver. Is that going to be the case this week? Personally, I don't think so, but let's dig into the slate because here we are. We're going to start with Fresno State at Kansas. This is Kansas's first game at their new stadium. I don't remember the exact name, but I know it was long and I didn't really want to say it. Let's start with Fresno, though, the visiting team. They have a new coach, Matt Entz. If you recognize the name, you're an FCS college football fan because he won 2 national championships at North Dakota State. They also have a new offensive coordinator, Josh Davis, who was at South Dakota most recently. But starting off, EJ Warner, Kurt Warner's kids, has done a couple of stints at other schools. He started at Temple and was with Rice last year. He has put up some big numbers in the past, but he's really not going to be asked to do as much here if Fresno's offense runs the way they kind of want it to, the way they were talking out of spring ball and so far in summer camp. And he was playing from behind a lot. Now, that is one thing in this game we do want to look for. More likely to be playing from behind based on this spread. So is there a chance he throws more in this game than we'll see for the rest of the season for Fresno? Yes. So that's why you put him on your radar. He's only 6,200. I believe the cheapest quarterback on this slate. So that's why you're going to be thinking about an EJ Warner, not necessarily for his talent long-term or role in this offense, but because of his price in this game situation. Bryson Donaldson played as a true freshman last year, put up some really big numbers. He is, slated to be the starting running back for Fresno, not just for this game, but for the entire season. But then you got Rayshawn Luke, who's a transfer from Arizona, more of a speed guy. He could see the field in certain situations, maybe a third down back, or, if they do run 2 running backs in any of their packages. And then Elijah Gilliam saw the field a lot last year. He's more of a big, strong runner, but that kind of fits the smash mouth offense that this Fresno team is most likely going to be running. But Donaldson is your number one option. If you want to take a shot on Luke or Gilliam, I wouldn't be mad at it, just especially, okay, I should have started with this. Week 0, if anybody tells you they know what they're talking about as far as projecting these players, it's not true. Nobody knows. Like, we have a team at SHIPIT who has been digging in, listening to podcasts, reading beat writers, getting any insight we can into spring camp and how summer camp has been going, and using the best knowledge that we collaboration and knowledge that we have to make our projections and ownership. But at the end of the day, we all agree week 0 and 1, these college football teams can do anything. Heck, week 5, you'll see a team make a complete switch. So while I believe we have the best team and we're using the best information, data, analytics, and reporting out there and research to get our projections done, week 0 and 1, there's a lot more crapshoot to it than the rest of the season. So I would recommend using a little bit less of your bankroll as you're getting your feet wet into this college football season. All right, week 0 and 1 rant over, coaches, rotations, blah, blah, blah. Anywho, what we do know is that Josiah Freeman is coming back in this wide receiver room. He's poised to be the number 1 guy. He's been there. He's just behind Mac Delana and Jalen Moss and Raylan Sharp last year. And one thing I know about Josh Davis is when he was at South Dakota, the last couple of seasons, he did have one receiver stand out and get at least double the targets of the next closest wide receiver. Behind his number 1 wide receiver, the tight end was getting the second most targets. So that really makes me like Josiah Freeman, especially at this price tag. If Fresno State is going to be forced to throw more than they want to in this game, he could be a target. Beyond him, it's not super clear who these next guys up are going to be. Brown and Avett are looking like the guys for wide receiver 2 and 3. Richie Anderson is a tight end. So if you believe it's Josh Davis's offense and he's going to run it like he has in the past, maybe you take a flyer on Anderson, especially at 3,500. But Freeman would be the guy, maybe Anderson. And then, in GPPs, all of these guys are on the table until we can see what this wide receiver rotation is truly going to be behind Freeman. And then on the Kansas side, if you know college football, you know Jalen Daniels, you know the name, you know how talented he was. He's dealt with some injuries. He had a couple of years. 1 year he missed most of the season, if not all the season, for his back. He did start and play in every game last year, but he really didn't seem like he was the Jalen Daniels of old. So it sounds like he's healthy. He's got the experience. He's got the athleticism. It's just a matter of if his body can handle it. I do think that he is going to play much better this season than last season. So at 7,800, if he's at his potential, is a steal. And I think a lot of people know that. Daniel Highshaw is the top dog this year. He backed up Devin Neal last year, but Highshaw is, he's really good. He's also had some injuries, missed 2021 and a lot of 2022. He had injuries linger last year, and personal reasons kept him out the back half of the season. But he is a stud. Like, if he can stay healthy and stay consistent, there's no reason he should be a $5,300 running back. He should probably be closer to 75, 8K. And I would not be surprised if we see that after this week. LaShawn Williams is a transfer from Iowa, only played in 3 games last year, but he was super solid before then. And at 4,500, one thing we know about Kansas, if they get up, they want to run the ball a lot, and multiple running backs can get there. We saw that with Highshaw and Devin Neal a couple of times in the past. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that both of these running backs get there, and you just play whichever one fits your build better as far as salary, which salary is pretty soft. So honestly, play both if you want to. Emmanuel Henderson in this wide receiver core is a transfer from Bama. Didn't get a lot of playing time there, but he's slated to be the number 1 guy. Cam Pickett's in from Ball State. He was really good there. It's a MAC transfer to the Big 12, but they're playing a Mountain West team, so this is a great game to get feet wet. Now, the weird thing is the depth chart is odd. It has Kubeka as a starter, but he has not recorded a stat the last 2 years. Levi Wentz is an Albany transfer who played pretty well in the FCS last year, and he's on the depth chart as well, I think, as an OR starter. And then you got Doug Emilian, a returning player. He's a redshirt senior. He's just been behind more talented guys. So, like I said, the depth chart, take it with a grain of salt if you do see it, especially early in the season. But we're looking at Henderson and Pickett being the guys, and then behind him, Hannick is a tight end, so he'll be on the field. But, looking at this Kansas side, especially with a 31.5 point total, and like I said, if they get up, you want to target that running game. All right, on to Sam Houston State in Western Kentucky. We have a Conference USA conference matchup right away, week 0. At Sam Houston State, Phil Longo. Phil Longo's back. He was at Sam Houston about 10 years ago. I don't know if you remember. They were a really good FCS team back then. Since then, he's been at Ole Miss, North Carolina, Wisconsin. A lot of people put an air raid tag on his coaching style, but I don't know that I would go so far as to say that, just because in 2020, when he had Michael Carter and Javonte Williams at UNC, both guys had 1,000-yard seasons, and Sam Houston did still have 3,600 yards and 30 touchdowns. But that's not to say that I don't know that it's kind of more of it's a false sense of air raid. They're going to get a lot of stuff done through the air, but that shouldn't completely discount the running game, which is probably good because Hunter Watson, the returning starter, is not known for his passing. His passing wasn't all that great. It did get better throughout the season last year, but he was still known more for his legs. He was basically RB2, and he is and should be the starter. But the wild card here is Mabry Matoyer is a redshirt freshman who came from Wisconsin. He was recruited by Longo at UNC, ended up going to Wisconsin when Longo went there. And he's more of a pocket passer. He's a 6'5", 225 kid who can just sling it. So if you do believe in this air raid narrative behind Phil Longo, there are some rumors out there that he could take over for Hunter Watson this year. I think it's probably going to be Watson's team this year and Matoyer's for the future, but that's yet to be seen. So I don't mind Watson at 7,700, especially with the rushing upside in Western Kentucky's defense. It's not anything to be scared of. Elijah Green, he was like RB3, RB4 at Indiana last year. He did play well with his opportunity, and he had a big season at UNC in 2022. Phil Longo was at UNC at the time. It was his last year there. So he's pretty clear as the starter here. And then there's a little bit of debate who's going to be next up. You got Alton McCaskill, who was the American Conference Freshman of the Year a few years ago at Houston. He hasn't done much, but he is still there. So that's something that or the talent is still there, I should say. And then Shane Porter, coming in from North Texas, has shown that he can play on the field. So there is a chance that we do see more of McCaskill and Porter, but it does seem like coming out of camp that Elijah Green is going to be the guy. And then this wide receiver room, it is going to be a question mark. What are we going to see out of this wide receiver room? Quavez Humphreys is returning. He was inconsistent last year. Michael Phoenix is returning. He did play a little bit more toward the end of the season. So we're going to have to see on those guys. All the talk seems like Michael Phoenix is going to be the breakout wide receiver at Sam Houston this year. And if you do think that this spread is accurate and Sam Houston's going to be forced to throw, he's a solid option. Humphreys is a solid option if he can catch the ball consistently. His route running wasn't very good last year. If he can improve, we'll be fine. And then Malik Phillips is slated to be the slot guy. He's been on the team, but he played a lot in 2023, didn't play a lot last year, but that was partially due to the talent in front of him. A couple more of these guys we could see. Thomas Jewett is a tight end who's been at Sam Houston for a couple of years. He did play last year and is a pass catching threat. He just didn't have a ton of production. And then Caleb Black is an Arizona State transfer who's fast, who could see the field. Lonnie Adkism is a pretty high-rated high school recruit that could see the field a little bit more this year. Those top three guys, Phoenix, Humphreys, and Phillips, seem like the solidified guys. But again, week 0, it's not to say that we couldn't see those other guys rotate in. On the Western Kentucky side, 35.8, the highest team total on the slate. So we're going to want to be looking at them. Maverick McIver is a transfer from Abilene Christian. Oh, guess what? Their new offensive coordinator is, I guess not a transfer, but he also is from Abilene Christian. So they came over together, and so they know each other. I don't know if you remember McIver from Abilene Christian at all, but if you watched early in the season last year, they played Texas Tech, and I want to say it was like a 52-50 game or 54-52. Abilene Christian almost beat them, and McIver threw for 506 yards and 3 touchdowns. So this Western Kentucky offense being a little more up-tempo, a little heavier on the pass, McIver being able to sling it. This is a good offense for him to be in, especially with his offensive coordinator. So I like him even at 8,500. Lavelle Wright and George Hart are probably going to split somehow 75 to 80% of the backfield with the Hilltoppers. I think Wright's going to be the starter. He's listed that Western Kentucky, I think, is actually the team that listed their depth chart in numerical order, so it was no help. But it's going to be Hart and Wright most likely. Hart can catch out of the backfield a little bit. Lavelle Wright was at Kentucky before going down to FCS and playing well there and coming back now to Conference USA. Jalen Hampton, more of a bowling ball. We might see him a little bit on the goal line, but I don't know if even 3,900 is cheap enough. And then Donovan Jones and Marvis Parrish are guys who could play, but we're really looking at Wright and Hart, if anybody. And then in this wide receiver room, Matt Henry is a Western Illinois transfer. If you know anything about Western Illinois at the FCS level, they're real bad, but Matt Henry was one of the bright spots on that team. He's on track to be wide receiver 1. He's only listed at 6 foot, but he plays a lot bigger than that. So I like him a lot at 6,400. Katie Hutchinson, we know he can produce. He's done it at Western Kentucky in the past. A little bit more expensive, though, so that might be more of a GPP play. He's not big, 5'8", 180, but the news out of camp is that he's really bulked up. And a name you might recognize, they're comparing him to Malachi Corley, who was a stud at Western Kentucky and now playing in the NFL. And then you got guys like Cam Flowers, who was really good at spring camp. Musa Berry, who he got some playing time last year and the year before, but it seemed like he was one that would play, 16 snaps one game, 4 snaps the next game, and then 3 games later have 8 catches for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's one that's, again, the experience in this offense is going to benefit him, so you could look at him. And then Jarius Mack is a Charlotte transfer who could also be involved some. But really, I just like this game because it's the highest total on the slate. There are some pretty clear, passing game for Western Kentucky. You can run it back with one of these receivers in Green, or if you want to do double quarterback with McIver and Watson, or Watson's rushing upside, and then, do a 3-1 stack. This is a game that you can get creative with. And it might not be as highly owned as like some of the Kansas and Hawaii guys. There will be ownership here because there's only 3 games, but you can maybe get a little bit more creative with this game in the middle. I like that one a lot. And then the game that's going to garner a lot of ownership, at least on one side of the ball, is this Stanford-Hawaii game. If you heard anything about Stanford in the offseason, you know it's a mess. Andrew Luck is a GM. He brought in Frank Reich as the head coach, former quarterback and Colts coach, but it sounds like a rent-a-coach situation. You might only be there for 1 year, so it's tough to say what the culture is going to be like in Stanford and if how truly invested everyone's going to be. They're going to say they are, but one thing that we noticed here at SHIPIT Nation, our college football team, is that the line started with Stanford as favorites, and now it's shifted all the way over to Hawaii being 2.5 or 3-point favorites, depending on where you're looking. For DFS purposes, Ben Gulbranson is an Oregon State transfer. He's going to start. He's never really been that great. He does not run a whole lot. So again, it's more of a price thing with him, but he's not as cheap as EJ Warner. I think I'd probably rather play Warner. But again, on a 6-game slate, anybody is on the table. Micah Ford, a name you'll recognize if you know Stanford football at all, has had some really good run with the Cardinal, and he's kind of a stud. I mean, I really like Ford, and he's only 4,700, so that's what you're looking at really if you're looking at this Stanford side, just because of the price and the run that he's had. Cole Tabb is listed as the backup, and he started a couple of games toward the end of last year, and he showed some flashes. Cedric Irvin has a little bit more experience, but it's really like Micah Ford, and maybe in MME you'll get a little bit of Cole Tabb or something weird like that, but Ford is the guy in this backfield. And then CJ Williams is a Wisconsin transfer. He could be a home run hitter for this Stanford team. So there's a lot of upside there. And at 4,500, you're going to definitely want to keep an eye on him and check him out for your lines. Sam Roush is a tight end. He's been okay. He put up decent numbers the last couple of years. Bryce Farrell and Caden High are the other starters. Again, we'll see what kind of usage they get in this offense, in this rotation. One thing that we're not getting from Stanford is they have a 4-star freshman, John Anthony Hall, but he's not on the depth chart, and he has been banged up throughout practice. So I don't think we're going to see him, but John Anthony Hall might be a name that you want to keep an eye on as we get throughout the season. And then for Hawaii, Micah Alahado is tiny, but he's a dual threat. And if we know anything about Hawaii and this run and shoot offense, there's a lot of potential there. So even at 9,300, you're going to want to take a look at him. The running backs might as well not even be on the field. They're there for blocking purposes. One thing I will say is that Landon Sims I think he's a converted tight end. So if anybody's going to catch the ball out of the backfield, he's probably your top candidate. So maybe you want to look at him. And then we got Pefeli Ashlock, who is wide receiver 1 and a preseason all-conference. Nick Senecal, who actually outproduced Ashlock last year, but Ashlock did miss a game. So both of these guys should get a ton of volume. And then we have a couple of transfers in. Brandon White, small, speedy, but for 3,500, definitely want to take a look at him. And then Jackson Harris is one of the more interesting ones to me. And that's just because he transferred from Stanford. And while he didn't do a whole lot there, he is playing his former team in his first game back. So he might be getting up a little bit more for this game. Definitely an offense you're going to want to target, a favorite. I think there is potential for this game to blow out. There's a potential for this game to shoot out. I personally think Hawaii is going to score more than 26.5 points. But again, it's a Mountain West team against an ACC team. It's tough for anybody to travel out to Hawaii. Stanford's kind of in shambles, and I don't know how good they were going to be anyway. But yeah, this is probably going to be a target game for a lot of people just because of pricing and then the usage in the Hawaii offense. But that's it. That's a 3-game slate on DraftKings. I'll give you a quick peek at what the stone looks like when we have it all done and prettied up. It'll tell you the cash plays. And I can't show you too much. Can't show you too much of the free content, but it colors the cash game or cash plays, what we think the game is going to be like. You can see up here as a chalky target, sneaky blowout. We'll have rankings for pass defense, rush defense, run and pass percentage, obviously the game time, and things of that nature. And again, that's all part of the football package and all access package at SHIPIT Nation. But I do want to take a moment. It is our first college football season kicking off without the big guy Degenerate 75. It's Still tough. It was super tough losing him, even though, you know, he did have a long battle, and he fought a lot harder than most of us would have. And I would not be on this video talking to you if not for him. So I owe a lot to him. And one thing that we are definitely going to do is to keep his legacy. And I'm going to keep his rule number one. College football is fun. Don't take any day for granted. Enjoy the process. Enjoy the sweat. Be thankful that college football is back and we have an opportunity to watch every single Saturday and play college football DFS. And let's all ship one for the big guy this weekend.